Did you hear about Doug Weiss and the Daystar TV drama? Apparently, Doug married Joni Lamb after divorcing his wife of over 30 years. The interesting part is that he kept his divorce super private. Why? Well, he runs a Christian marriage counseling business and probably didn't want to risk losing clients. But here's the question. As a marriage counselor, how do you give advice on relationships when your own marriage didn't work out? Here's what some women have shared about their negative experiences with Doug Weiss and his counseling center. I've been trying to warn people about Doug Weiss for years. Here's a few more awful things about good old Dougie you might be interested in. 1. Doug is a complete hypocrite. He said this in a Facebook post about Lisa. I have the evidence if you want it. Lisa and I settled this issue early in our marriage, that murder was an option, but divorce, never. We laugh when we tell our friends this, but we are committed to the end. This in a Medium article in 2017. Anytime, and I mean anytime an accusation comes to you about your wife, aggressively attack it. These thoughts and accusations are your enemy. Don't coddle them. They are toxic. Even if they are only 1% true, they are still a lie. Thank you that you made Lisa, just for me. Thank you for her eyes, her character, her beauty, her intelligence, endurance of me, great sex. 2. Doug lied to everyone about his divorce. Doug told many of his clients at his heart-to-heart intensives that he was married and used his marriage as a shining example, even though he was already divorced. Why would he lie? He could have just easily not mentioned anything about his marriage. Why go out of his way to lie about it? For example, one woman, out of many, I spoke to went to Doug's heart-to-heart retreat with her husband in the fall of 2022, after Doug's divorce but before he told everyone. And he lied to her and presented himself to still be married, like his marriage was still a good example. When she found out Doug lied and was divorced, she confronted him about his lies, and he straight up blamed her and tried to make her think it was her fault that she was offended, as if there's something wrong with her, and that her trauma from betrayal is why she's offended, implying that if she was just healed enough, then she wouldn't be offended. Basically, he gaslit the crap out of her and made her out to be some crazy lady acting out of trauma. I can't stand when people do that. 3. Doug and his office have done a lot of messed up things to many women I know. For example, his office did a surprise polygraph on the betrayed wife of the sex addict and treated her like she was also a part of the problem, even though she wasn't the one who cheated and destroyed the marriage. The therapist canoodled with the abusive, cheating husband to set up the surprise polygraph against the wife. Another wife who attended a H-to-H retreat was cornered in a room by Weiss, alone, as he circled her like a shark and tried to force her to talk to her dead baby. What the freak? That is none of Weiss's business and has nothing to do with why she was at the intensive or why her husband chose to cheat, lie, and abuse her. It was completely against the code of ethics. 4. Doug is obsessed with sex and making sure victims continue having sex with their sex addict husbands, even if they don't feel safe to, since their husbands have lied, cheated, and abused. Women should only have sex when they want to and feel safe too. Doug has made women sign sex contracts, promising they'll have sex X amount of times a week, and even used fear-mongering by telling women at his intensives that if they didn't have sex with their husbands, then they'd lose their husbands. Again, the husbands that chose to lie, cheat, and abuse. Doug also gave women homework to do chanting exercises. Here's what one woman said of her experience. Saw him in fall 2019. He has chants you are supposed to do for 1.5 to 2 hours each night. One of the chants is to repeat to your husband and vice versa. I want you sexually. You repeat this over and over to each other, taking turns for a given amount of time, then go to the next chant. You are supposed to look your abuser in the eyes when you tell him this. Doug tells betrayed victims on his website that sometimes there are roadblocks in this area, sexuality, and it is your duty as a sexual servant to heal this area of your being. Hooray! Weiss thinks women are sexual servants. Oh, and get this. If women don't feel safe having sex, then Doug often labels them as reactive intimacy anorexic, which according to Doug is an addiction. So basically, Doug pathologizes and blames women, the victims, for not feeling safe to have sex. Here, Doug tells victims on his website regarding reactive intimacy anorexia. Not having enough sex in your relationship may sound like a rather trivial issue. However, a shortage of sex threatens relationships like almost nothing else and deserves thought and attention. Like what? Not enough sex threatens the relationship almost like nothing else? Not the addict's choices to lie, cheat, and abuse her, but it's her not having enough sex with him that threatens the relationship like nothing else? Oi. 5. Many couples pay thousands and thousands of dollars for his intensives and show up only to be told that they have to pay even more money for the books and material that are required for the intensive. And then most of the time at the intensive is spent working on these materials. Alone. Oi. Total ripoff. 6. Doug Weiss is victim blaming, though he claims he isn't, since he still uses the 12 steps, uses codependency language, and, again, he
Motions
labels
are
some
dismissed as
wives with
unhelpful.
reactive intimacy anorexia if they don't have sex with their husbands. Doug Weiss is also incredibly addict coddling. 7. Doug's polygraphers at Heart to Heart, Pete and Chase, his son-in-law, aren't licensed polygraphers, which makes sense why so many men pass the polygraph at the Heart to Heart intensives, since the polygraphers have been asking sex addicts more than 4 questions per test for many years. The American Polygraph Association rules state no more than 4 questions can be asked per test, though they recommend 1 to 3 for best accuracy. When more than 4 questions per test are asked, it raises the error rate significantly, which means someone taking the test is more likely to pass while lying.